departed from Cape Verde and headed to Spain's Canary Islands. On Wall Street, the Dow by 612 points, the Nasdaq rose 512. More at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
Hi, my name's Neil. I have some advice for you if you've been trying to break free from credit card debt. You can start by doing what I did. Get your bills together and call Trinity Debt Management. Trinity is dedicated to helping people like me become debt-free. When I called, my first experience was a feeling of relief. My counselor was kind, and best of all, she didn't judge me. In just a few minutes, she helped me figure out a plan that consolidated all my bills into one lower monthly payment. This substantially reduced my high interest rates and put me on the road to success. In the end, I saved thousands in interest, and today my credit card debt is a thing of the past.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Neil. Take it from someone who's been there. Call Trinity and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Millions of taxpayers penalized by the IRS during the coronavirus pandemic for late payments or filings may qualify for refunds or penalty termination.
But relief is not automatic. Most taxpayers need to file a claim by July 10th to get their money back. A federal court ruled last year taxpayers were not required to file on time during COVID-19. The IRS assessed more than 120 million penalties between January 2020 and July 2023. The Treasury Department says the Trump administration believes the case was wrongly decided. The case is still being litigated. John Scott reporting.
The U.S. Postal Service is releasing a new series of stamps to honor Route 66's centennial. The offering includes 8 stamps, one each for the states traversed by the Mother Road. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters.
Now more than ever, Texas energy security is national security. That's why Governor Greg Abbott has endorsed Jim Wright's re-election to Railroad Commissioner. Jim Wright understands how important Texas energy is to make sure we keep America first. Jim Wright is focused on making sure hostile foreign nations can never have direct ownership or indirect influence on Texas energy. And he's not stopping there. Jim Wright will keep radical militant Islamists out of Texas energy, protecting our infrastructure and our future. Look at Jim Wright's results. Record oil revenues topping $6 billion, fueling our economy and supporting record state surpluses. Jim Wright knows energy independence is national security, keeping Texas strong and America secure. He'll always stand firm for Texas. Jim Wright, protecting Texas energy, securing America's future. Re-elect Jim Wright for Railroad Commissioner. Election Day is May 26th. Political ad paid for by Texas Now PAC.
Alex Mueller, the Trump-endorsed conservative for Congress. President Trump calls Mueller an America First patriot with the wisdom and courage to defend our country, like she did as a combat-decorated Army officer. Raised to serve, trained to lead, proven when it matters most. Alex Mueller knows jobs, energy, innovation, and American dominance. She'll help Trump keep our streets safe and our border secure. That's why President Trump backs Alex with his complete and total endorsement.
My complete and total endorsement.
Alex Mueller, the battle-tested conservative Texas needs. On May 26th, vote Trump-endorsed Alex Mueller for Congress. Win It Back PAC is responsible for the content of this ad. Paid for by Win It Back PAC. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. WinItBackPAC.com.
Where should I begin?
Can we talk about this?
Hey, what are you trying to say?
Beyond the usual controversial talk.
Blah, 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 on and on and on.
Over there.
1, 2, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Prepare yourself.
Okay.
For Craig.
Okay.
Preparing a mighty new spectacle here.
Articulate. Stimulating. Hit you right in the... there you go.
We start becoming a team right now.
This is the Craig Collins Show.
Lord Jesus. Oh, God, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host.
He's a good man.
Craig.
Yeah, that's right. It is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. Something very funny happened today off the air. That's probably not going to matter a lot to a lot of people, but I just think it's a funny thing to mention. The radio industry is so small. You think it's big. I don't know if you actually think that out there, but people like me think that it's a big industry. And then you meet a guy who used to work with a guy. We're training another producer who will be starting soon here at the Voice of Texas, KSEV, KGBC. His name is Michael. He's been here before. But anyway, we're training him, and he knows guys that I know from other places, whether it's places in Illinois and then beyond. And it's just so funny every time you meet somebody who knows somebody that you know, because it makes this whole world feel small when it's actually the opposite. All right, the first thing I want to talk about, and the thing I thought was most interesting today, was what happened in Indiana. Indiana had a giant, a seismic, a huge, I don't know what other words to use to describe it, response to the anti-Trump politicians that were out there, the fake Republicans, if you want to call them that, whatever you want to say. Indiana resisted. And here's what's weird about this, too, by the way. I host a show as a fill-in host in Indianapolis, in Indiana, for radio station WIBC. And Tony Katz, who has a morning show there. You hear him on the station with Eat, Drink, Smoke, which airs on the weekend. But anyway, I'm a little bit more familiar than I'd typically be with Indiana politics because of that side gig that I have. And so there were some that were surprised at this outcome because this outcome was huge. But essentially, Indiana resisted redistricting. There were a lot of conversations, both in politics and just for people beyond, about what redistricting meant, how many politicians would lose jobs, what other politicians would get jobs, et cetera, et cetera. There were a lot of debates going on, but the difference between us here in Texas and them there is that we actually did the redistricting thing that they refused to do. And it seems to be much to their detriment that they chose not to do that because obviously the end result is Trump is probably quite happy with, President Trump is quite happy with the amount of people who lost jobs, the amount of people who are out of work in the world of politics because of a fairly surprising, although I'm not all that surprised. The thing I should say at the start of this is the least surprising outcome to me. And I don't know if it's because I do have some familiarity with the market, because I, as I said at the open of the show, I work in it. But I thought that the sentiment from a lot of people was we should be doing what Trump is asking for here because we're fighting fire with fire. I think that's what Texas did. They decided that so many different places are gerrymandered and redistricted to a ridiculous degree. Illinois, just to the west of Indiana, is ridiculously redistricted so that a whole lot of Democrats win seats that they probably shouldn't win. And so this is fighting fire with fire. Yes, there are a lot of politicians or a lot of political gerrymandered, whatever you want to call it, uniquely drawn districts in Republican states as well as Democratic states. But it doesn't matter. To me, the biggest thing, the most important takeaway is Democrats are probably benefiting from this more and doing it more than Republicans are. So we have to fight back. And when you see what happens in Indiana and the amount of people who kind of resisted or fought or didn't want to do the thing that they inevitably did, you realize very quickly that that's probably going to cost a lot of people their jobs. Let's play some audio. This is of CNN talking about some of the primary wins, the candidates that Trump had endorsed and how well they did, because, I don't know. To me, this also screams that people like John Cornyn are going to lose their jobs. And Trump sounded like he was almost going to endorse Cornyn, and then maybe some information got back to President Trump about how much of a mistake that would be in this state, and with people who support him and don't support Cornyn. They support Trump and not Cornyn, and he didn't do it. And I'm not surprised he didn't do it. And Ken Paxton is leading in a lot of polls. But here, this is CNN reporting on some of the, to them, surprising things that were happening in Indiana and the Trump-backed GOP primary candidates who won, who defeated in a lot of cases what some would call rhino Republicans.
It's the prerogative of the president. He's the boss of the party. I think Alyssa stated it very well. He calls the shots in the Republican Party, and if you go against that, he will pour his wrath out upon you, and it doesn't typically turn out well. As Harry Enton has said before, go against Trump in a primary, and you wind up in the grinder, and that's what happened in Indiana. To me, what I was looking for tonight was the forward-looking lessons here For instance, what's going to happen in Kentucky in a couple of weeks in that 4th congressional district where Thomas Massie is the one congressional Republican who has been the biggest thorn in Donald Trump's side. They have poured millions into that race, and a lot of people are wondering, could he withstand a challenge from a Trump-backed
I don't think so.
Challenger there? If you look at what happened in Indiana tonight, and you're Thomas Massie tonight, or you're anybody else in a primary right now where
You're
Trump's
terrified.
on the other side of you, you got to be thinking, this is a bad night for me. But
yeah, this is going to be a bad night for a lot of people. And Massie is at the forefront of that list of individuals who seem to not give a crap at all about the things that you want to see happen versus the things that actually do happen a lot of places. You can call in. You can be a part of the show if you want. 281-558-KSEV, 281-558-5738 to join us. You'll be auto put on hold for now. At some point in the near future, I think we'll have a producer every single night on this show, which will be nice. But for now, you'll be auto put on hold, and then I'll get to you. If you hear the radio when you call in, you've made it. You've passed the first barrier. I do want to play this audio. I am a Catholic. I think I've talked about my Catholic faith on this show before. I hit that button a little early on the live stream. But this is the president talking about the Pope, saying some things he's concerned about. The President of the United States and the Pope have traded some amount of bars back and forth, some amount of I don't know what I even call them. But by and large, I know a lot of people get on President Trump's case for saying the things he says, especially if they're targeting the Pope of the Catholic Church. But it's the Pope's decision, and I'm supposed to be a person as a Catholic that says whatever the Pope does is fine. I'm not going to object to it, whatever, or at least that's what I think. My grandmother taught me at some point. But if the Pope chooses to be in politics and say things that have a political bent, I think it makes sense for the politicians that he's talking about to respond to those things. And I think by and large that is what happened between these two individuals. But here's the president being asked a question and answering a question about the Pope and their relationship, et cetera, et cetera.
We've had some recent back and forth with Pope Leo. I understand Secretary of State Marco Rubio is going to meet with the Pope tomorrow. What message do you hope he delivers to the Holy Father?
Well, I can tell you this, that as far as the Pope is concerned, and it's very simple, whether I make him happy or I don't make him happy, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And he seemed to be saying that they can. And I say they cannot. Because if that happened, the entire world would be hostage, and we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, so you know what I think is really interesting about this? Of course, a religious leader and the Catholic Church, the one that, again, I'm a part of, would say that he doesn't want to see war, conflict, death, any of the results of fights that happen in the world. It doesn't have to be Iran in the United States or Israel in the United States. It could be literally anyone. The Pope's position, to me, can be, I'd rather not see that happening. However, the end result, by and large, very often is it happens anyway. It happens because the world is not a perfect place where these things can always be avoided. And I think that's the message Trump is delivering there, is saying, I entered into this conflict for a specific reason. It is something that I think is going to wind up protecting more people than harming in the long term. So we had to do it. And if the leader of a church, any church, this is not how he said it, maybe how I would have said it, not that he said it badly, but the leader of any church can tell me that they'd rather not see us in conflict with anyone. It's not always something we can do because it's not something that other people intend to do. Iran would like to see the death of all Americans. That's something that they've said before. They've been at war with us when we're not even fighting them before. So you can't tolerate that in this world. But I never expect the Pope to come out with a position that's like war's okay. That's not necessarily a thing I assume I'll hear from him, but maybe not as harshly as war's never allowed. It's never something that'll happen in our society, because it does, and unfortunately it has to. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. One other piece of breaking news that I wanted to play, Ted Turner, the founder of both CNN and the Turner Broadcast Network, which I think was best known for playing a bunch, well, at least best known to me, for playing a bunch of Atlanta Braves baseball games. I'm not a Braves fan, but they had that deal. It was a national thing. That's one of the things that made TNT and TBS household names, in my opinion, is their sports broadcasting. But there was some breaking news about the passing of Ted Turner. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I think this is also CNN with this report.
Very sad breaking news indeed, and for me, very personally sad breaking news coming into the Situation Room. Ted Turner, has died at the age of 87. The innovator, an icon, a legend, he revolutionized the television business by creating the first 24-hour news channel right here at CNN. And he hired me many, many years ago. Here's a closer look back at the life and legacy of one of the greatest visionaries of our time.
Yeah, I'm going to stop it right there. All the flashes going back. Ted Turner, also fairly prolific for making CNN a far left-leaning news network. To some people would say that the rise of CNN has harmed news more than helped it. But there are people with all different kinds of opinions. I have a caller on the line. I'll go ahead and go to the call. Caller, what's your name?
Professor.
Oh, Jimmy X. How you doing, buddy?
All right, man. Driving back from Dallas to Houston. I do want to make some points about Indiana and all of the redistricting efforts.
Sure.
But I want to tell a quick Ted Turner story. So 20, 30 years ago, I'm in the Army. I'm stationed in Colorado Springs. My wife and I go up to a Colorado Rockies baseball game. They're playing the Braves.
Of course.
And I'm in the stands. I kind of sneak down to the lower level, and I'm sitting there with the wife, and all of a sudden, here comes walking up Ted Turner and Jane Fonda. And I'm like,
Wow.
one section over.
Wow, dude.
I'm one section over, okay? That's how much I had snuck down, right?
Sure.
And I'm like thinking to myself, Greg, what do I do? Do I let this opportunity go?
Yeah.
And of course I didn't. So I got up and I got real close to him,
Yeah.
and I started screaming out to her, "Traitor! Traitor! Hanoi Jane!" And I start screaming at her.
That's
man.
amazing.
And I get this look from Ted Turner.
Yeah.
I get this look from him. I'm like, what are you going to do, you pencil neck?
Right.
So no security.
Wow.
I mean, like they're in the stadium. This is back in the early 90s,
Sure.
93, 94. But anyway, it's my favorite
Dude,
Ted Turner,
that's hilarious.
Jane Fonda story.
And I'll tell you this, and I think a lot of listeners who've heard you call in know this. When you said you had to make a decision, all of us knew you weren't going to do nothing. Everybody knew that story was going to have another avenue where you at least said something, because Jimmy X I wouldn't have sat there. You got to yell something at this guy and the things that he's created. And Jane Fonda being with him is even more hilarious, man. But awesome. I'm proud that that's something you did, and that they just looked at you.
Fun is great again.
Say it again?
Yeah, it's a story I'll always, I'll always
Dude, that's
have
awesome.
for me. I also saw James Carville once at
Wow.
Bush Airport, and again, I had to say something, so called him a racist communist.
Sure.
And he looked at me, and I went, but go Tigers, because he's a big LSU guy, and so am I. So.
That's awesome. You said you wanted to talk about Indiana. What do you want to say about Indiana? Are you still there? Did we lose Jimmy? Oh, no, he's still there.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm driving back from Dallas, Greg. Connection is great. Hopefully you can hear me.
That's going in and out now a little bit.
But yes, Texas started the mid-year redistricting after New York did it. Okay,
Sure. That's true.
Everyone forgets about that part of it, and then the Marxists look back at you. Well, what about all the Republican states that don't have any Democrat representatives? Well, okay, let's name them. South Dakota, North Dakota, they only have one.
Yeah.
Alaska, they only have one.
Yeah.
The two states that have multiple members of the House that were all Republican are Arkansas and Oklahoma. And just pull out the map and look at how it's not gerrymandered in those states.
Yeah.
They didn't have to because it's overwhelmingly Republican. But then flip forward to New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Illinois, New York, California, and that's where you see pure gerrymandering, okay?
Yeah.
And so what Texas did, which I was, a vocal person that said we shouldn't have stopped at 5, because look what California did. Look now what Virginia has done. We probably should have gone maybe 15, okay, and really gerrymandered the state in response to their gerrymandering.
Yes, I agree
but
with you.
What Indiana did last night,
go ahead.
Indiana has proven that this is what the people want.
Yes.
Okay? And those primary voters spoke loudly. Okay? And Republicans who have voted for red, like you, like me, for years and years and years, are sick and tired of lip service. We're sick and tired of same old, and we want change. We want bold action. And you better realize that, or you're going to experience the same peril as those 5 did last night.
I know this is just for anybody that's watching on any of our live streams. I'm talking to Jimmy X, a caller who calls in a lot, but he mentioned how many places are not gerrymandered and have a lot of Republican representation. I went ahead and put a photo up on all of our live streams on YouTube and Rumble and my X page at Radio Craig C that shows the 2024 presidential election map and how red the entire country is. And I imagine this is something that you, Jimmy, have looked at before. It's insane to think that Democrats win any elections anywhere outside of maybe Chicago, California, some other blue places, because we are a mostly red country when you look at the actual map from where people vote. So it's just ridiculous to me that sometimes we have this conversation. I'm going to take the map down and jump back on myself on the live stream, but it's ridiculous to me that we have this conversation and pretend as though both sides do this equally, because one side would never win an election without this approach to our politics. They would literally never win anything. The only way they can win is by constantly gerrymandering the crap out of every place in which they get a certain amount of politicians from. I don't know if you want to say anything in response to that.
I do. First of all, I would not have called you with those statements without doing a little fact checking. So, yes,
not.
I agree. I looked at those maps to make sure that what I was saying was truthful.
Yeah,
I'm not a liberal Democrat Marxist who can just call in and say anything, okay? And you have those callers.
I do.
So that's number one. Rush Limbaugh always said, remember, we outnumber them.
Yes.
But also remember that their goal is a single-party system, single-party rule, and they will not stop until they get there. And they are going to continue to try to redefine the electorate by allowing 30 million voters, into this country without vetting them, knowing that they're going to be loyal to their party so that they can achieve their ultimate goal, single-party rule, American communism, because it hasn't worked because it just hasn't been tried with us yet. Never forget that.
I never will. Thank you very much for the call, man, and for calling while you're driving back from Dallas. I'm going on Saturday to Dallas, so I'm making that drive you're making right now. But thank you for calling in, bud.
All right. Hey, don't forget, you're invited to a crawfish boil at the end of the month.
Oh, dude, I'm coming. I'm bringing the missus.
All right.
Betty and I will be there.
All right.
All right. Talk to you later, brother.
Outstanding. All right, great. See you, brother. Bye.
We have another caller that I'm going to go to before I take a break. Caller, what's your name? You're on
Hello, this is Joel. This is Joel Yoho, and I'm 22 years old. I was just calling Mr. Chris to make this statement.
I'm Craig. First of all, I apologize, Joel. My name is Craig.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Craig. I thought I had Chris Salcedo on the line, so that's my bad. But let me make this statement, so please forgive me, sir.
Sure.
I just think that there is no left or right. There is good against evil. And I think if we all focus upon Jesus Christ and only Jesus Christ, all things will be much better. America is like Mystery Babylon the Great, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I just think America is becoming like Mystery Babylon the Great. All the nations are going to weep and wail and be like, oh, America has fallen. Let us weep and take all of our clothes off and just fall away from the Lord. America is just becoming sinful, extremely sinful. And I know this is just my 2 cents, and I apologize for that.
That's okay, Joel.
Just how I think.
Let me ask you a couple things, because I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, were you actually listening to the radio, or did you call this number because you thought it was Chris Salcedo? Some people, I'm not mad, I'm just curious, because some people call this number because Salcedo promoted it on television and a bunch of other places. And they're like, I just want to talk to Chris Salcedo, which is okay.
Yeah.
But so you were listening then to the radio?
No, sir. Actually,
Okay, gotcha.
I just called this number to reach out to Chris. But
Yep, I got you.
Mr.
That's
Craig,
totally
it's
fine.
great talking to you.
It's great talking. It's totally fine. And so then the second thing I'm asking you, you said that you believe that our country is going to a bad place from a moral standpoint. What is I'm not arguing with that. What is causing that? What do you think is the catalyst to those changes in our society? You kept referencing Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. It is from Revelations. Anyone that doesn't know what he's referencing, it's within the Bible. The book of Revelations, I think
the book
it's like
of Daniel, the book of Ezekiel, the book of Revelation.
I think 17:5 in Revelations is where that actual phrase pops up. But nonetheless, what were you trying to say? Who do you think is the catalyst to these changes in our society? Is it societal? Is it technology? Is it a political party? What's going on?
I think it's an element of all three of what you have just mentioned. The technological standpoint, we have enough technology in this day and age to monitor each other. I think that the technology is the catalyst of the mark of the beast. It's what you call it, it's the beginning standpoint of that. Now the political part, I don't hate Trump, but I don't love him either. The Lord says, "Pray for your presidents, pray for your kings," and that's exactly what I'm doing here, Craig.
Who do you vote?
Yeah.
Can I ask you who you vote for? What side of the political aisle
I
you wind
vote
up
for
supporting?
Jesus Christ. Yes, sir. I vote for Jesus Christ.
Well, I don't, and I'm going to say this as honestly as I can. I don't remember Jesus being on the ballot anytime recently. I know there's a lot of politically,
I think that
religiously motivated individuals. So go ahead.
Yes.
You vote for anyone that you think's withholds the values that you care about religiously.
And it's a sad part, sir. The deal is that both parties are at fault. There is no one good party, Sir Craig.
Sure.
There is. It's mainly good against evil, sir.
I like that you're calling me sir. I'm 40. You're 20-something. I'll take the sirs from you.
Yes, sir. I'm 22.
That's cool. Let me say this too. Which party do you think more often than not actually aligns with your religious faith? Is it conservatives?
Well, it would be Republican.
More often.
It would be Republican.
Yeah, because
But
Democrats hate the religion you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
Democrats.
If you look at it like
Democrats
this,
spied on. Here, wait, one quick thing. Democrats spied on Catholics during the Biden administration. We've seen a lot of stuff come out that they actually deemed people who were overly religious as being dangerous to our society. That's the Democratic side of the aisle. So while I agree with
Democrat has demon in it. It has demonic in the name Democrat.
Sure, I agree with you that there's problems on both sides, and there's politicians who don't seem to care about anything but themselves, and they have an R in front of their name. By and large, I'm guessing that you actually vote for a lot of Republicans when you vote in the ballot box. Okay, cool. So what else would you like to say about...
I hate to sound like an anti-American, sir, because I'm really not.
All right.
But honestly, I haven't voted. And the reason beyond for that is because each person that everyone thinks is proper is in reality not proper. Now, Trump, he does do biblical things, and he's like King Cyrus for the Jews in Israel, and I do see that. Okay. But I just think the direction that we're going is not the best way.
Let me talk about one other thing with you. And I am getting a couple messages on my social media pages at Radio Craig C. Some people are being mean to you. They're saying that you're not the most intelligent of callers. I disagree, Joel. I'm happy that you called in. I'm happy that you're on the air with me. I remember being a 20-something who also chose not to vote. And I remember the reason I chose not to vote is that I didn't think my vote mattered. Depending on where I lived, I knew who was going to win the election. And if I wanted those people to win, I was more likely to vote. If I didn't want people to win, like when I was living in Illinois and especially Chicago, I gave up my opportunity to vote because the side that was winning by such a huge percentage it didn't matter. But most importantly, and I guess the thing that I'd like to say that's most important about that is I regret that, because no matter how much I thought my voice didn't matter, choosing not to wield it only helps the people I didn't want to win more easily. So I would say in response to you, whoever the people are, whoever the politicians are that you think most resemble your value system, and my grandmother used to vote based on one thing. I want to tell you this too, abortion. She hated the idea.
Oh, my grandmother's the same way.
Okay, she hated the idea of any baby being killed in any scenario whatsoever. Did not matter to her. So any politician that was pro-life, they got a vote from my grandma. Any politician that was pro-choice did not get a vote from grandma. It was that simple. And she used to send us out an email that told us which people to vote for, which were usually all Republicans. But before I let you go...
Right. See, my grandmother's the opposite. She's a Democrat, and she supports abortion, and she supports...
Nope. My grandmother,
the
not
evilness. She supports... Yeah, she supports the evilness of the world without knowing, like blissfully ignorant.
Sure.
Blissfully ignorant.
So let me ask you one last thing before I let you go. Who influences you?
Yes, sir.
Who do you pay attention to? Do you watch people like Nick Fuentes on the internet? Who do you go to learn?
Honestly, sir?
Yeah.
I just strictly, sir, and to be quite frank with you, even though I'm Joel, I just stick to the Bible, sir. I stick to Jesus, and
all right. So
I like the book of Ecclesiastes.
Gotcha. So then why were you calling into Chris Salcedo's political you thought this was Chris Salcedo's talk show, even though it's not right now. Why would you call into a political talk show if you're saying you don't terribly value the thoughts of political, pundits?
Well, I just being 22 years old, I'm still growing.
Sure.
I'm still learning.
Sure.
And in order for me to get a better understanding, I thought I would give you guys a ring and maybe have an educated talk, because I'm interested and I desire to learn.
I appreciate that. I'm going to put you on hold for a second, and I'm going to let you go. I'm going to say something that might seem a little bit like I'm scolding you, and I don't mean to do that. And I feel like it's a place of youthful naivete. That's the nice way to say it. If you want to have a debate with someone, make sure you're listening to the thing that you're calling into. Don't feel as though the topic you want to talk about or the opinion you have on that topic is so valuable that you don't even need to listen to the thing you're dialing a phone number for. You can just call in and jump in because you'll be more informed about the discussion, about the stuff that's going on before you dial that number. And I know a lot of people, a lot of 20-somethings who, and no offense, think very highly of themselves, who wouldn't necessarily care what anyone is talking about, who is talking, any of that stuff. They'll just be like, my opinion matters, and I'm going to call in and talk about it. And I liked you. I liked the phone call and the conversation with Joel, even when he pretended to be Frank for a second there. I like that joke a lot. But nonetheless, please in the future, try a little harder to respect the platforms you call into and at least be listening to them while dialing the phone number. That's as much as I will admonish that guy. We have one more caller. Caller, what's your name?
Destiny Smith.
Destiny, what do you want to say?
Yeah, met and something.
So what? You're on the radio. What did you want to say? Destiny?
Oh, hey.
Yes.
Hey, yes, sir.
You're on the radio with me. You're on the radio with Craig, the host of the show. I have no producer, so when you call in, you get right on the radio when I put you on the air. Just so you know, what would you like to say?
I was listening to Joel,
yes.
Craig.
Yes.
And I did not hear his call drop. I heard you were going to put him on hold, and then you were talking, and so I missed it. So while I was on hold, I was talking.
Gotcha.
This is Jimmy X to the second power. You've already talked to Jimmy X,
yes.
the OG.
Let's do Jimmy X to the second power. How are you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great listening to your show. Normally would have been in Austin today, like we discussed the other day, but happen to be still in this area over here right now. But for Joel, he talked about all the things that he loved and he's biblical.
Yes.
But if you look at what Jesus did, he got involved in the things that were going on of the day.
It's true.
You can't just be so heavenly minded that you're of no earthly good. And I'm not saying that Joel is.
Of course not.
But there has to be a practical application because everything in Scripture is balanced.
Yeah.
And if you only look at things from a certain view, you're going to miss so much of the world that you're trying to reach, which is the whole reason that Jesus said, go into all the world. Now, when you say that word all, that doesn't mean that you leave out the political landscape.
Sure.
Last time I looked, that's part of all.
Yes.
And so that was the
comment
that I wanted to make.
Yeah, you know what? Here, hold on. You know what's really interesting about that, Jimmy X to the second power, is sometimes, and the reason I asked him about Nick Fuentes is Nick Fuentes is a person that grounds a lot of his discussions, I've seen enough of it, in faith. He talks a lot about the lack of morality in our society, similar to Joel, the caller, did, and a lot of 20-somethings maybe do. And the thing that I'm a Catholic, I certainly hear and understand the complaint and the reality of it and all of that. I'm not going to pretend it's not real. But sometimes what I hear in connection to that is this form of giving up, which you just referenced a second ago, and how we shouldn't do that. Because Nick Fuentes has called for conservative voters to vote for Democrats to teach conservatives a lesson. That's something he's called for a lot recently. And in Indiana, we saw something different happen. We saw better conservatives win primary races that are much more likely to withhold the values of, I think, the moral leaning individuals in our society, the faith-based people, Catholics, Christians, and also uphold a lot of the values that Trump stands for that some other Republicans, some rhinos, were failing at. And so I think that Indiana is a great template of a demonstration to people like Joel that your voice does matter, and you can put people into political office, or at least attempt to put people into political office, who will reflect your values. Because, and some people might call individuals like Joel extreme. I'm not one of the people to do that. But I think that
Nor am I.
Good. When I think you're someone who feels that way, like your views are outside of the mainstream, even more so, you feel like you can't get people that represent you into elected positions of power. And I just think that's wrong. And as you said, even Jesus taught that you needed to involve yourself, not stand on the sidelines.
That's correct. And when you look at what the Dems call flyover country, that's the reason that the majority of the nation is red. But it's because they have concentrated population areas in the metropolitan areas where they can control, like they do in California, a whole state based on the concentration of power in a few large liberal cities.
Yes, it's true. Thank you very much for the call.
That's their methodology.
It is.
Keep up the good work, Craig. Love it, man.
Thanks so much. Jimmy X to the Second Power with kind words, both off and on the air. And also, this is funny. I'm just going to say this. I'm way late for a break, so I definitely have to take a break, and we'll come back and do some other stuff. I want to thank anyone who's called into the show over the last few days or couple weeks even, because there have been others that are just telling me I'm doing a good job. You don't need to do that. I don't need that attaboy. I appreciate it. I'm certainly not upset by it, and things like Jimmy X to the Second Power saying it. But there actually have been people that called in just to tell me off the air they think I'm doing a good job. They didn't want to go on the air for anything. And please, you don't need to do that. You can think that's awesome to think that. I'm not trying to say, I don't know. I would love if when you call in, you want to participate as Jimmy X to the Second Power just did, and everybody who called in the show did. You don't need to just tell me attaboy, even though I do appreciate that. And as I said, it is kind to say it. But I hope that what we get out of this is an interaction, a conversation, and more. So I just want to do that quickly. I usually don't even bring that up at all. But a couple people have called in over the last few days and might have been surprised that when I came back from the break, I didn't say thank you or anything about it because that's too much patting of myself on the back. But again, just quickly, and now I've taken too long in doing this, thank you to those who have done that. I will take a break. I will come back. 281-558-KSEV. 281-558-KSEV or 5738 is the phone number. You can talk about whatever you want with me, whether it's the topics I'm discussing or you're not even listening to the radio at all. You will get on the air. You get put on hold because the producer is out today, but we will have a producer here soon. Have a quick break, a little bit more politics, and a little bit of fun after this on KSEV KGBC, the voice of Texas.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters. And we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source. And these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
If you have roof problems, you can sure see them when it rains. This is Deb Tejada from Tejas Roofing. If you see a leak, call me immediately, 281-251-0304. I'll send over the Tejas Roof Repair truck.
That truck has everything our experienced crew needs to fix your roof, right then and there.
The Tejas Roofing crew has been working together fixing leaky roofs for 15 years.
It's not a pretty truck, but it has everything we need to get the job done. I kind of like the way it looks.
Most roofing repairs cost less than $500. Why? Because we find the cause of the leak and repair that leak. We won't try to sell you services you don't need.
And we'll fix it right away because everything we need is in our truck.
Don't put off fixing a leaky roof. Call me at Tejas Roofing and I'll send over the truck. 281-251-0304. When you think of roofing repairs or a new roof, think Tejas Roofing, your Houston roofing company. 281-251-0304. That's Tejas Roofing, 281-251-0304.
See, Jackie, there's also news tonight. The president may get a new ride in time for the nation's 250th.
Yeah, Reuters is reporting the U.S. Air Force is targeting a July 4th delivery for the new Boeing 747 gifted by Qatar that will join the Air Force One fleet. A spokesman for the Air Force told the outlet that security modifications and the flight testing is already done and the plane's being painted. They recently unveiled a new red, white, dark blue, and gold color scheme.
You know what's hilarious is the amount of people, especially Democrats, that were mad about this gift. That it was somehow buying something from Trump, the thing from Qatar or Qatar, as people used to call it. It is now often pronounced Qatar, though. The luxurious Boeing 747 Air Force One plane. I think it's awesome. And I think that the reality of a quid pro quo, and I'm saying this as a East Coast Italian. I was born and raised on the East Coast, and I am, in fact, Italian. It only matters if I do the favor for you after you do the favor for me. So if you give me something nice and I don't give you anything in response to that, then anybody that's calling this a buying of power is wrong. This is just you want to give me a plane? I'll take a plane. That sounds great. Give me the plane. I will go ahead and use it. I'm not promising you nothing. I'm just taking the sweet, sweet plane. We got another call. Caller, what's your name? You're on the air with Craig on the Craig Collins Show.
Hey, is this me?
Yes, this is you. What's your name?
All right. I'll go with Chris XTC. Hey, were you working at the station back when the judge was out with his hip and Jimmy X called in?
I was not.
And then, okay, so the Amigos, they implied to Jimmy that he could fill in for the judge. And
Yes.
man, Jimmy X was just jumping for joy. And then it turns out that they didn't mean it at all.
Oh, no, man. Really?
And Jimmy, yeah, he had his heart broken.
Yeah.
He only got a brief thing. He only filled in for like one little thing, like, hey, this is KSEV.
Gotcha.
And I thought it would have been awesome to have Jimmy X fill in for the judge because he is so knowledgeable.
He is. He's great.
And such a good guy.
You said
So
you're another Chris, but you don't want to go. What is the name you wanted to go by?
I'll go with Chris XTC. Remember the band in the 80s?
Dude, that's
XTC?
hilarious.
So-
That's awesome. Okay. Jimmy X can co-host a show with me for an hour, whenever he wants to. I know it's not as good as the Amigos. I know this is not, but it's an hour on KSEV right after the Amigos, and I agree with you that Jimmy's great.
He would love that.
Yeah. So
he would love that. I mean, you
Open
know,
invite.
he's brought them pizza and everything,
I know.
and they implied, they're like, oh, you can fill in for the judge, and he's like, oh, that would be the greatest thing ever. And then they said, well, go ahead. And he said, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, go ahead. And oh, you mean just say, hey, this is KSTV. And they're like, yep. And then,
Let me tell you,
so
though,
yes, if you,
I do think that
yes.
the judge is the wrong role for Jimmy X.
That Tony Katz, it was the greatest thing ever when KC put on Eat, Drink, Smoke. I said, wow, this station finally kind of cares about themselves. And they added some, comedy, and
Sure.
it became a Tony Katz and Fingers Malloy fan, and
they're
I'm
great,
glad
dude.
you joined the crew.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the call. And anyone who doesn't know what he's referencing, I actually fill in for Tony Katz at WIBC in Indianapolis for his morning show, not the Eat, Drink, Smoke show that is nationally syndicated that he does. But I've had him on the air before. He's a great guy, super knowledgeable. Almost had him on today, and the schedules didn't align to have him on to talk about Indiana and whatnot. But you can hear his show now Saturday and Sunday, Eat, Drink, Smoke, which is great. And I could hear it in the caller, in his opinion, that we should have some more entertainment things. And I know that some of us get so sick of the news that entertainment becomes so important. And so that's why I do at the end of the show something I call the Quick 4-ish segment. I stole it from Dana. Dana Lash does a Quick 5 when I fill in. Actually, I'm filling in for her on Friday and Monday. And that is not yet at this station, but in the very near future, we will have an announcement about the nationally syndicated home for Dana Lash's show in Houston, a place that she was for a long time, KSEV Radio. But we'll announce that, I think, officially at some point here soon. I think it actually starts next month. But I appreciate everything you said. Thank you to that call, too. My mom texted me and said, why does it bother me when callers compliment me? I want to say this to anyone who heard my last segment when I said you don't have to call and say nice things about me. It doesn't bother me. It's incredibly nice for people to do it. I just feel like the point of the telephone is not to give me the attaboy. And so I almost feel bad if people just call in and say nice things about me, because I'd rather have people call in, even the people saying nice stuff, and talk about anything else to get your voice on the radio about whatever the topics are. I appreciate it whenever anybody says anything nice about me on air or off the air. But I feel like the more important thing is to talk to you guys about news, issues, humor stuff, whatever you want to talk about, or how Jimmy X should actually be a co-host of the show. That offer is real. That is 100% real if Jimmy X is still listening as he's driving back from Dallas to Houston. Any day he wants. He could do a Veteran Voices Friday where he sits in and co-hosts the entire hour. On Friday, I do a half an hour of veteran-specific content. We bring a veteran on. Jimmy has actually helped me book some of them and talk about veteran issues. He is a veteran, of course, Jimmy X, a longtime caller of the station, so he could be on that day and do the whole hour or any other day. And he could do it in person. We do have the technology to allow him to do it remotely, so it's up to him. All right, I want to play a couple other things. This is something that I thought was pretty interesting. It's a Fox News report on the Will Cain show. I got to be honest, I'm kind of enjoying the Will Cain show. I feel like he covers some things that aren't talked about as much by other people, and then they wind up getting talked about by more people, whether it's Fox or beyond Fox. So I think there might be something good there. But he's talking about a lawsuit where a white man has sued the New York Times because he feels that his race, his sex, was a detriment to his career. And so I thought this was really fascinating. Here's Will Cain talking about it.
The white man claiming the New York Times discriminates against white men. An employee at the Times is claiming DEI policies cost him a promotion in 2025. And the Times allegedly broke the story on itself. Now the Trump administration's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is suing the paper. The lawsuit claims the Times' race and gender goals influenced its decision not to advance the employee.
Yeah.
It also claims the final round of candidates matched the race and gender the paper wanted more of in leadership.
Here's the thing I'll say about this, because there are people who get mad. And you're not trying to go out there and say, like, I just need white people in positions of power, which some people hear. When you talk about this topic, there are people out there who hear a racist version of the discussion, not the same one that people are saying they're fighting, because people who do DEI type of stuff, I think some of them at least believe they're fighting a racial bias toward white people or toward white men, and they're not. They're actually just changing the way that racism is being used in our society from what they think is happening to what they'd prefer to happen. No one's actually removing racism from the equation that's talking about that stuff in that way. This guy's lawsuit against the New York Times, I think, is actually aimed at getting rid of racism, having there be no version of it, no one that's disproportionately favored because of the color of their skin or their sex. None of that matters. In a meritocracy, which I believe we're actually in and we actually have in our society today, you gain stuff based on your worthiness to be given things, whatever those things might be. That's the best way to promote anyone to any position at all. It's not good to do it any other way. And we're even seeing the Supreme Court make some changes now that doesn't allow for politicians to build districts that are full of just minorities, with them saying the reason why is that they have to weigh and balance the amount of districts that are just white people, which is racism. All of that is racism. My sex and my race should not matter to anyone in any conversation. Well, almost any conversation. I'll take that back. There's some conversations where it probably does matter. If I'm going out on a date with someone, even though I'm a happily married man who's not doing that, but if you are, I think then those things probably matter. If I'm using a bathroom, I do want to, it does matter to me what the sex of the person is, biological sex, before they walk into the restroom, et cetera, et cetera. All right, before we get out of here, just a couple little silly things. I call them the quick 4-ish segment. There's a video of a mom asking her son's girlfriend to give up the front seat of a car. Social media weighed in on who was right and who was wrong. Ma thought that it's her kid and she deserves to be in the front seat of the car. The young girlfriend thought that it's her boyfriend. She deserves the seat. Here's the thing I'll say before I even hit play on this audio. If you're the person dating somebody, maybe hoping to someday marry someone, the person you least want to be in a fight with is mom. You don't want to be in a fight with the mom for like anything. You don't want to ask the person to pick between you and their mother. Like, you don't want any of this to happen. So I feel like already we're in the world where this is a problem, because if I were the person in a relationship here, I would never fight with my mother-in-law on any topic at all, because I think my wife would choose her over me, and I'd rather not fight at all. It's not going to help me. It's only going to hurt me, et cetera, et cetera. But here's some of this audio which has triggered this debate.
I'm not sitting in the back seat. You need to get out. You gonna sit in the back seat today? You need to get out. I'm not sitting in the back seat. What you mean you're not coming? It's not that deep. Just sit in the back seat.
All right, some of that audio is a little hard to understand, but by and large, you get it. The thing that the mom keeps saying is, I'm not sitting in that back seat. I have, at times, when I'm in Mexico, not even driven a car to make sure that I'm in a back seat so that my mother-in-law or father-in-law can be in the front of the car. Sometimes they've asked me to drive, and I've been like, no, I don't need to do that because I'll be in the back. If they ask me again, I'll, of course, do it. And if my father-in-law asks me, I'll always do it. That's usually the way that goes. But I want to make sure that they're given the option of the front seat first all the time. And I've been married for several years, and I still do this. And actually, my favorite thing about this, real quick, is whenever I do drive, and it's usually my father-in-law who sits in the front seat with me, and my mother-in-law chooses, I want everyone to hear that, to sit in the back seat. When this happens, anytime I go over even the smallest little bump, and my wife will probably laugh that I'm telling this story on the air, at least I hope so, I can hear her mother pray, like do the sign of the cross in Spanish, because she is worried the gringo's going to crash a car. I've never crashed it. I've done just fine driving in Mexico, but I hear that happen every time, and I also do not react to that in the moment. I might say something to the missus after, because you don't want to be in that fight, man. Again, you don't want to be in that world. So I think that if you're choosing a side for this debate, that the young woman is wrong because she's choosing to fight the mom on anything. That's not the road to go. If your boyfriend wants to tell his mother to sit in the back seat for you, that's a very different thing. That's going to be a whole different conversation, I think, different variables, different problems, but then at least you're not to blame. Then at least this woman is now not trying to get her son to break up with you, which is, I think, absolutely what's happening now, and not going to be great. It's not a good look. All right, some other things out there. I saw a story about how cereal boxes might be bringing toys back. It's actually been a decade, they said, since Kellogg and other cereal brands put toys inside the boxes. But cereal is more than expensive enough, I think, for the companies to afford a toy. Toy Story 5, an upcoming movie, might be part of the catalyst to doing this. The cereal companies will see if this actually enhances the sale, specifically Kellogg, of Fruit Loops, Frosted Flakes, Corn Pops, Apple Jacks, whatever. A couple things that I'd like to say to anyone out there who's amused by this story at all, and I doubt there are any kids listening to this station at almost 7 o'clock at night, but you have to understand these toys are not going to be high quality. Like, that is part of the thing. When you get the Happy Meal toy or the toy in the cereal box, it is not the same as buying it yourself in another way. So that's the one thing I'm worried about with this generation, is they will complain about the quality of the free toy in the cereal box, and it'll somehow be a negative, because it doesn't have to be. You just got a free thing. Like the Cracker Jacks or anything else. This was a nice time in our society, and you saved some of these items for way too long, and then Mom eventually donated them all to Goodwill. That's usually, I think, what happened. All of my McDonald's toys, I assume, wound up in a Goodwill somewhere where people paid maybe 10 cents for them. Who knows? And I hope they actually didn't pay for them. But that's what it is. You get very crappy, somewhat entertaining toys, and we like that. For some reason, the free thing at times seemed even better than the expensive thing that you had to pay for, depending on what it was. Just a couple minutes left. Another quick story I saw out there that I thought was kind of interesting. A woman realized she has been making Kraft macaroni and cheese, quote, wrong for several years. This audio went viral. I don't know if there really is a wrong way to make macaroni and cheese. If the end result of the thing you do is, noodles, pasta that has a cheese-like product on it that tastes like the macaroni, I don't know if you can make something wrong, but we'll all find out together what she admitted on the...
Who actually puts 4 tablespoons of butter in one box of macaroni?
I love how outraged she is by just one part of it. That's the only piece of audio I have that went viral. But apparently she skirts on some of the items, and that's fine. I think she's not making it the wrong way. It's just less delicious. Her macaroni and cheese is a macaroni and cheese I don't want as much as the ones that other people make. But you know what's funny about this, at least to me, maybe not to you? We'll find out with about a minute to go. People say that I make ramen noodles the wrong way. And yes, I'm a 40-year-old man who still occasionally eats noodles in that little package with that little seasoning thing. But I put everything in all together, and then I make it all together. Whether you're putting the noodles in with the flavoring and the water, and then you boil it on the stove, or you cook it some other way. There are people who think this is a horrible thing to do. They think you need to boil the water first, then put just the noodles in. On the directions, I think you're supposed to strain out the water, put in new water, and then put in the flavoring. Way too hard. All of it's way too hard. And at the end of all of what I do, I still get something that tastes exactly like the thing that you made, at least to me. So for that reason, I don't think it's a big deal at all. But I love that I have a version of this same thing, where at least some people I know have been like, you're doing this so wrong. You're ruining your cheap food product that you bought for 50 cents that is not actually going to be good compared to great stuff, no matter how you make it. That's the show. That's it. I'm out of here. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for all the calls. Craig Collins Show.
You're
KSEV,
listening to the
KGBC.
Voice of Texas.
Voice of Texas.
AM 700 KSEV Tomball and AM 1540